It's a competition clinching shot. Whoa! How about that?
The LET Golf Podcast, the official podcast of the Ladies European Tour.
Welcome back, everyone, to the LET Golf Podcast. I'm George Cooper. With me is Nicola Kenton, and this week's guest, we've got teenage superstar Chiara Noja. Chiara, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you on this fine Monday evening?
We're pretty good, yeah. Same old. Looking forward to the start of the season again. So, what about you? You've had this big break. What have you been up to?
I took 3 days off and then sort of went straight back into it. Obviously going to school, trying to study a little bit here and there. But yeah, we've just had, we had 2 weeks off, obviously because of Easter. So that was really nice. So barely really missed anything. But no, I feel like the little break is good. But can't wait to get back on tour.
Of course. And you're out in Dubai at the minute?
Yes.
How is it out there?
It's really nice. I think it's slowly getting a little warmer. I think we're sort of getting the weather change now. We're getting towards 36 now. It's beach weather now.
Pretty good. And you mentioned school. You've just turned 17. How's it all going?
Oh, depends who's going to listen to this. Is this my head teacher? Loving it. It's great. No, actually, I don't mind school. I think it's actually quite interesting half the time, and it's good to socialize and, be back with my friends. So it's not like that's exactly something I don't look forward to. But yeah, busy times. I know GCSEs are kicking off in 3.5 weeks now. So I know everyone in my class is sort of running around stressed. But I'm doing mine in the October-November set and then the rest in January. So I'm a lot more relaxed than everyone else, and I'm taking full advantage of teasing them.
Yeah, how do you juggle that, really? Practicing so much and then studying.
I definitely don't practice as much as I would like to. I can't spend all day at the range, especially when you've got school till 3. But no, it's Ramadan right now, which means we have shorter days, which is obviously helping. But yeah, no, do I juggle it? I think I do. No, it's trying to make sure that the time that I do spend there is as effective as possible. Sometimes it is quality over quantity. But do I think I'd be a better golfer without school? Yes. Would I be a better student without golf? Also, yes. So it's like a tipping scale that you sort of got to try and get right.
Yeah, absolutely. And back to the golf, you've made a strong start to the season. Where would you say your game's at?
I'm playing well. I've made mistakes here and there, but I think I've been pretty solid regardless. I'm sort of doing what I know I can do. It's not exactly too hectic just yet. I've been able to take my breaks here and there. I've tried to be smart about my season. I took 2 events off in between, and I think that was pretty good. And I'm going to try and just make sure that I plan out my season to give myself time to practice in between, just come back recovered and strong. That's one of the mistakes I made last year. I just sort of played everything and anything and then showed up really tired towards the end of the season. So I'm going to try and be smart this year.
And on the LET Golf Podcast, we like to go back and see how our players got into golf. But normally the gap is a little bit longer between someone who's on tour and when they got into tour. But yours doesn't seem that long ago that you started playing golf.
No, I started when I was 3 or 4 years old. Both my parents are really keen golfers, but nothing too crazy, just trying to get out there as much as they could. And I guess I'm an only child, so I was dragged along. But I think for the first few years, I was definitely more interested in driving the golf buggy. I think golf was not the priority there. I was building tents out of umbrellas and everything. So I think it was only really when I got to maybe 5 where I was like, okay, well, this is what are mum and dad doing? I didn't really pick up anything else before that. Yeah, I think I really wanted to beat dad. I think that was always the motivator growing up. I think my dad was a +2 handicap, so he was always a pretty decent golfer, and my ego couldn't handle that. So that was the driving force for the first few years. But it wasn't really until I moved to England when I really got into the game. So many people will be like, I started at 3, I started at 1, I started at 2, but it's as a 5-year-old, are you really practicing? No, you're not. I was still bringing my teddies to the golf course. It's not like I was grinding it out for hours. But yeah, I think when I was 7 or 8, I really got into it properly.
as I say, what was it about golf when you did eventually get into it after, you know, I'm sure messing around with some plastic clubs and doing everything else, when you actually got to kind of 7, what was it about golf that you kind of realised, oh, no, I like this sport, this is good?
I seem to like the anger issues it gave me. No, but I think to be honest with you, just trying to be dad, because dad was always practicing at that point, and then I just wanted to sort of be around him, so I kind of went like, hey, can I come down to the range or whatever? And when he was playing with his friends, then I wanted to always join in or, you know, be the center of attention. So I guess I wanted to just practice and try and beat him one day. To this day, he swears I have never beat him. That's called delusion, if you ask me. But no, I think that was always sort of what I was trying to do. And then I guess I liked the peace and being out in nature. I grew up in England, so when the sun did shine, that was a rare occasion. So battling the elements, I guess, must have seemed enticing to me. I don't know why, but no, I really enjoyed the sport sort of from an early age on, and I like competing, and I think it's a very individual sport, which suited me. I think also because I'm an only child, I was never really a team player. Sharing was not caring for me, so I guess it was a sport for me.
Yeah, and what are your early memories of kind of, do you remember the first competition that you ever did?
I don't know if this was my first competition, but like, I remember the golf club I got my first handicap at. I got my first handicap at the Shire London. That was when my dad was a member, so obviously I was still trying to beat him at this point, and I just barely got a 28 handicap, which I thought was pretty decent for the first handicap. But yeah, I think one of my first competitions, I was playing in like a flight with the men, because I was the only girl, except this one lady. So there was one lady member, and then there was just me, little old me. And I was playing in this event with these big guys. Like, they were like older men, I guess, but they were very built, and I was really scared of them all around. And I think I remember that round really well, because they sort of had to introduce me to the rules, I think, because it was the first tournament I'd ever played, and I remember I had to take a drop, and I was just really confused by the whole ordeal. But no, I think it was really fun just sort of growing into things, and I think also just being the younger kid a lot of the time and having to play with adults, that sort of matures you and just teaches you to the patience of the game. But yeah, didn't really have very many juniors around growing up.
But as you say, it's one of those things where you start golf and you don't necessarily know all of the rules, and as you say, going into competition for the first time.
Well, I mean, it's not like I could have pushed the trolley by myself. It was twice the weight and size of me. I think like I just remember that day, and I remember one of my like first junior tournaments I played, everyone got a participation trophy, which is a concept I'll never understand, because that does not relate to life whatsoever. But I still have that trophy.
Is it sat next to your Jeddah one? They're next to each other.
I think it's just above the Jeddah one, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, pride of place, of course. And speaking about kind of golfing heroes when you were growing up, when you kind of got more into golf and watching the sport, who did you look up to within the sport of golf?
I mean, I hate to say it, but I think when I was like especially young, I didn't watch very much women's golf. I think it was always the men that I was watching, you know, watching the Masters, you're rooting for people. But I was always watching run backs of like Tiger, stuff like that, because I was not there for Tiger's main era. Like I was too young and not even born yet for the main stuff. So I was watching a lot of that, and I think just hearsay of like what my dad was telling me, because obviously when you're like 8, I was watching Barbie. I was not watching golf all that much. But I think once I was like 10, 11, 12, I sort of realized that like there was a difference between men's golf and women's golf. Like I had never really grasped that, and I think also that golf was like someone's job. I didn't understand that either. So like obviously like growing up, I find it so funny when people are like, oh, like I always dreamed of being a golfer. I'm like, well, I didn't really understand what golf was till I was like 9. So maybe I was just a confused child, okay? But no, I think when I was like 10, 11, 12, I really got into women's golf. And then I think that was when Michelle Wie was still really, really popular. So my mom used to always say, like, my one wish in life is that, like, because there was this massive picture of her in one of the pro shops, and she said, well, my one dream for you is that one day we're going to get a poster that big of you. in places, and I think that I still remember that day now. And whenever I see a picture of me anywhere, or like when I see myself on the branding at the Aramco events, I always send a picture to mom. I'm like, look, there I am. No, I think that was one of the main things. I grew up watching Michelle Wee because she was really tall, so I thought that was like just more relatable to me. And then over the last few years, just watching Lydia Ko, watching the quarters, I think they've always been great advocates for the game. But there's so many amazing players, and I hate to be like there's one, because I think women's golf is all about like all of us. I think the entire product that we have, and I hate to be like, oh well, there's this one person that brought me into it, because I think just there's so many different stories and so many different like games out there. I had an appreciation for all of them.
Definitely makes sense with, as you say, everyone. But I know that you also attended some golf events when you were in the UK, did that kind of thing. You met Charlie Hull when you were, it wasn't even that long ago again, but obviously she's a big name in England. So what was that like meeting her?
For me, I guess when I was that age, I think when Georgia Hall won the AG, that was a very big deal for us in England. I think that was like, okay, well, she's English. And I think Charlie and Georgia were basically the names that I heard being thrown around basically for the entire time I lived in England. So when I was watching the girls play at Woburn, obviously one of the flights I was really keen to watch was Charlie. And I think it's really cool to come back like full circle basically. And I think she was just a great girl out there. I think she's been an amazing person since as well. It's been amazing being able to tee it up with players like that. And I think, yes, ways like Jeddah turned out the way it did, but I think she's still a great role model of mine, and that has not changed whatsoever. And there's so many things she's achieved that I still got to catch up on. So it's not like that's changed in any sense, but I think she's a great player, and things like that really get you going, because I think when I was younger and then looking back on pictures like that, that really inspired me when I was younger. And being able to watch women's events that close to home growing up in England is always really nice, because seeing girls out there with the crowds, I mean, that's what we all dream of being. We all dream of being the superstars of something, and I think that's sort of the moments like that were really when I was like, okay, well, this I think is for me. Because when you're younger, you're just like, okay, well, I like golf, but when you learn to appreciate just what it is, I think it makes it all the more special.
Yeah, for sure. And I was just about to ask, when did you know that golf was for you and that you wanted it to be a job? So you've already preempted me. But yeah, was it kind of around that period where you're 14, kind of 13, 14, going, yeah, actually, this is what I want to do?
I think also, I mean, I hate to say it, but golf is more fun when you play well. I think everyone can relate to that. So I think when I was like 10, 11, 12, I was getting out of that like beginner stage where you're still having like some funky mishits, if you know what I mean. So I think I was really like, I was understanding the sport more. I was getting better at the sport, and I think that was sort of the moment where I was like, well, this is kind of really cool, and there's like an athleticism behind it, and there's professional people, and that's when you sort of respect the professionals even more, because then you're like, okay, well, I practiced for like 5 years now, and look what I'm doing, and look what these girls can do. But I think, yeah, sort of around that time. But then I think when I was like 14, I played my very first professional event, and I thought that was really cool, and I think that was when it sort of solidified. Obviously didn't go the way we wanted at the Moonlight Classic, but I think I learned so much at that event. And I don't think I would be where I am right now if I hadn't flopped, we'll call it. But yeah, I think the season that sort of came from that event, 2021, that was a really good learning curve for me, and I think I learned a lot about myself. And I think in golf it's very easy to appreciate golf when everything's going really well, but it's the hard times when you feel like no one stood behind you, when no one's got your back and every door is being closed in your face, that you really appreciate just how good the good times are. And I think that's when you really crave them. So that's probably also another defining moment.
Yeah, definitely. And what was that decision like to turn pro in the end?
For me, it was never like today I've decided I'm gonna do it. I think because of COVID, I live in Dubai, it's not like we have amateur circuits out there that are comparable to like global events. It's not like that. So I think when COVID hit, that was sort of like, okay, well, I can't travel as an amateur. I can't compete. I'm trying to get better, but this is just not what I thought this was all about. Like, I love competing and I love traveling, but with amateur golf and COVID, that was just not happening. And I got really lucky to get some invites for the LET Access that year. And I think that was really one of the main stepping stones to helping me sort of go that direction, because I sort of saw that I was ready to compete there. I think the first few events I was quite kind of like, I don't want to say like nervous about it, but I was like, okay, well, how different is this going to be? Because it was a new environment. And when I sort of realized that it almost suited me a little better, I feel like after the Moonlight, I sort of thrived a little better under pressure than I would have had before. And I just enjoyed that environment of it. And I think for me, it was very difficult to imagine myself sort of going back to amateur golf, because it would have felt like a step down. And to some extent, I was ready to compete on that tour, and, I was doing very well. So it was difficult for me to just go, okay, well, I'm going to go pack my things. And, when COVID's over, I'm just going to go back to playing amateur events. And I think also, most people don't want to talk about it, but COVID was hard for most families, I think, both logistically and financially. And it wouldn't have been possible for me to travel all over the world. Oh yeah, for, I guess, I don't want to say for nothing, but for no pay. It's a cost, and that's money spent, and it's gone to some extent. There's no return on it immediately. And I think that was also a reason behind it. Like, there's just so many private things, and also like that experience of being able to be on tour. And I almost won my first professional event at 15, and then there was just a lot of things going on. But then one of like the final like clicks that it was for me was when I got the invites for the Moonlight Classic that year, and then the Saudi International and the Jeddah Team Series, because that was like, okay, well, these are like really big events, and these are really cool opportunities. I can take these as a professional or an amateur, either way. But I felt for me, like long term, I was just going to grow more as a person if I did it as a pro.
Yeah, absolutely. So those like invites when you went and played, what was that like, being your age and, having rarely teed up for many pro events, and then suddenly you're there with some of the biggest names in women's golf?
Basically, okay, this is I don't know, most people probably don't know this, but when I first played the Moonlight Classic in that 2020, right, that was with like a laser, right? That was with laser, because the Pro-Am was inside the tournament, so obviously they had to somehow allow laser. And then for the event that I played in 2021, 2021, we thought it was going to be with a laser as well. So we played the practice rounds, gone about our day with the laser. I get an email the night before with like from Sophie, just going through like the final, and I see DMDs are not permitted. I have a panic attack. I run downstairs, I'm crying. I'm like, Dad, like, what are we gonna do? We don't know this golf course. Like, we haven't played it for no laser. And I remember my dad, he was so calm. He was like, oh, it'll be fine. You've played the course in the tournament before. You'll be fine. Like, he was trying to calm me down. And I remember there was just something wrong about the par threes. I kept having the wrong club in, and my dad's really good he's a great caddy, he's pretty spot on with everything. But I kept overshooting stuff by like 20 yards. I was like really confused. I was like, Dad, am I just super strong today? What's going on? But only on par threes. And we were so stupid, I'm not even joking, until the final, like, second to last par three in the final round, we did not know what was going on. He was like, well, Chiara, you're doing something wrong. And I was like, you're doing something wrong. Until finally, my dad's colorblind, okay? And it's at night. I look at the yardage book. I'm like, Dad, what the hell is going on? I open it up. He's been looking at the wrong distance, like on the yardage book, because it was in red and he can't see that at night. So he was looking at the black number. And he was looking at the wrong distance all tournament. And I remember I'd gone to sleep and I wasn't even mad. I was just laughing about it at that point, because I was like, I was playing well. It's not like I was, losing the tournament because of him in that sense. It's not like I lost the playoff because of it. But I'd gone to bed that night, and I remember at 3 a.m. he just walked into my room. He gave me a kiss on my forehead, and he went, "I'm so sorry, that was my fault." And that's like one of the most amazing memories I have, because I thought it was just so funny how there was just so much confusion, and it just shows that you need to read the fine print.
I thought you were going to say that you'd messed up meters and yards, but
That could have potentially happened. Like,
yeah,
there was just so
that's where I
much
thought
going
this
on.
was heading.
I did not understand what was going on, and like those fallow bunkers can be a little sandless at times. So I think I was not happy to be in them all day, every day. But no, and then going obviously into the Saudi International and then the team series Jeddah was really awesome. I think the Aramco team series and the Gal Saudi events in general are just some of the best events on tour, and the organization is always so much fun. So I think that really felt like a special event to partake in, and obviously with the field it was so stacked, and playing against the likes of Lydia Ko was really I was stunned, I think, for most of the week, and I was really nervous, and I got to talk to her over breakfast, and I think moments like that really, really get you excited. But I hurt myself the day before the Saudi International, and I was really angry about that. I'm proud of how I came back. I remember I really struggled first round. I made the cut, and then I played some pretty decent golf to sort of get myself back into it. And then for the team series, I guess I was feeling a little better, and I managed to play some good golf. So those events were a really fun start to being a pro, not gonna lie.
Well, it sounds like you're a bit starstruck at first, when you meet these huge names. Is that still there, or is that like you're now like, okay, I'm like these guys?
Absolutely. I remember seeing Lexi for the first time in New York, and I was like, no way. The problem is, like, these players are probably getting creeped out by me at this point, because I'm just staring at them. Like, I'm not even hiding at this point. I'm just, like, standing by the putting green watching them. But I think it's so fascinating being able to play with players like that, and I think at times it's just, like, all the experience and the history they come with, and obviously the results. But I think a lot of the time you meet some of these girls, and it's just really amazing seeing what great characters they are. And you'll see some of the best players in the world, you almost see why they've deserved that. And I think they've done justice to the name that they have.
I'd just be watching them and like trying to be a sponge. Have you like seen one of your heroes do something and you're like, okay, I'm gonna do that moving forward now?
I think some of the really big players, they've been really amazing. I think they've like, whenever I've played with them in the Aramco Team Series or the Saudi International, they've always been very open to questions, and I haven't exactly shied away from asking them, to be honest. They were probably like, can she just shut up? But I was borderline interviewing some of them at some point. But no, I think playing with under Team Alison Lee and Soda Grande was a really good opportunity. I got to ask her a lot of questions, and just speaking to someone who has experience of being a pro and is on the LPGA, and she seemed like a really great girl, and she is a really great girl. So that was a really cool opportunity, and just sort of getting that insight from players of that caliber was really cool. But yeah, I think every opportunity to sort of see someone else's perspective, and I always ask questions like, how does this course compare to that, and like, how does that work? And it's really cool, and hopefully one day I'll be there with them.
And we'll hone in on Jeddah, specifically last year, obviously where you got your LET win. So how did you feel going into that week? Because obviously you'd played Access for the year. And then, as you said, burned yourself out slightly, maybe playing too many events. Took some time off, did some school, and then played New York, and then obviously went into Jeddah after that. So were you glad you had that bit of a break, per se, of competition?
Yeah, exactly. I think I was really grateful for the break, and even the break in front of New York, I think I had 2.5 weeks or something, and I was really grateful for that. And I think you see a lot on my results. You sort of see when I come into things fresh and rejuvenated and with time to prep and be rested, I tend to play a lot better. So I think just being able to sort of come into things with a fresh mind and a clean slate is always good for me. And I think, a lot of people will be like, oh, well, like, it was such a shock to see you win in Jeddah, and like, I never know how to deal with that, because I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? Because I think I played really, really solid golf for all season, whether that was for the Aramco Team Series events or on Letas. I think I was very proud with how I managed sort of the pressures of the season, and I think I sort of dealt with having to being chased by what felt like a large pack by the end of the season, and making the choices and saying, okay, well, I'm going to prioritize my body and my health over this and that. And I think those decisions were very mature of me to make at the time, and I think it all sort of paid off coming towards the end stretch and coming into things with a good game plan and being able to just prep for things. So I'm going to try to do that again this season, and I have done so far. Hopefully I stick by that. But yeah, it's been good. And also just traveling to New York was really cool. So I use that as a bit of a holiday anyway. So hopefully that's maybe I need to go to New York again and then come back and win something else.
use a tournament as a holiday prep, which I'm sure a lot of people do it. And that was the fact that obviously you already had your LET card, you had LET status for 2023 already heading into that tournament. Did that free you up in any way? Because obviously you were just playing for yourself, for the result, for whatever. You didn't have anything riding on it.
That's difficult, because to some extent I want to be like, yeah, but I don't think that would be true, because I think I went into that tournament with just very realistic expectations, I think. I said to Dad going into the final round, I said, if I want to win, I need to shoot 7-9 under par. And that's what happened. It's not like I didn't go into anything overconfident. Like, it wasn't like, oh, well, I'm free now, because I don't think pressure has affected me very much over the last season, in that sense of like, okay, well, here I need to perform and here I don't. I've just sort of gone into every week and tried to make the best out of every situation. But I think also with Letas, it was a very difficult scenario, because I felt like I'd already got my card very early on. I had a quick start. Events were added, and I felt like for most of the season, I wasn't really playing for my card anymore. I felt like I was just playing events to sort of just get it done with to some extent. It was a long season for me, and then I was really tiring myself out. I remember I was crying in Anna's office, and I was like, I just want to go home. I had not been home in 5 months, which is pretty dang hard. And I remember that was a really cute moment. But my mom did obviously fly out to see me twice. But it was a difficult season for me, I think, emotionally, just because I felt like I was doing pretty well. But it was just very difficult, because I'm a planner. I am. And I like to have everything mapped out. And when things were like being added and altered and cancelled and changed, that was really difficult, because for me, a season is planned. I say, okay, well, 2 weeks here, week off. This here at that hotel, fly then. It was difficult for me to sort of have that continuous rest and like recuperation in the places when I needed to have been there. And, I'm trying to learn as I go, obviously. It was my first year on tour. I don't think anybody approaches it correctly. But I think everyone on my team was pushing me in the direction of saying, like, Chiara, you need to just chill a little bit. And I'm glad I listened to that eventually towards the end of the season. But yeah, I was pretty stressed all year.
And then obviously, as you said, the final day in Jeddah, you knew that you had to shoot a low score, which you went and did. But yeah, what was that like on the first tee that day?
To be honest with you, I wasn't even thinking about it, because I knew I was gonna have to shoot something ridiculously low. And even if I did shoot that, there was no guarantee that I would win, because if someone else shoots 7 under, or like Charlie shoots her 7 under or whatever, whoever else was in front, then it's like, okay, well, I did my best, and I was proud of where I was. I was playing decently, and I wasn't trying to force anything, because at the end of the day, golf is a game of chance to some extent, and the only thing that you can control is yourself. So that's what I was trying to do. Like, I'm not even joking, even to 16, I didn't even know that I was anywhere near the lead. The leaderboards at times weren't updated, like that weren't electronic, so the leaderboard on 12 didn't have my name on it yet. And I didn't know, to be honest with you, for most of the round. I knew that I was somewhere up there, but I didn't know that I was leading, or if I was tied or one back, or, and I didn't exactly think that was an issue. I think that sort of, I don't want to say made me more comfortable, but it sort of made me more hungry for it, because it's easy to sort of look at a leaderboard, and if you're 2 in front, then you're like, okay, well, I'm good. Do you know what I mean? But if you don't know where you're at, you're just like, okay, well, I need another one. I need another one. I need another one. I need to save this. I need to make this. Because you're just hungry for the game itself, and you're just hungry for whatever you're trying to achieve rather than that overall picture. But yeah, like, it was strange, because even on 16, I hold that putt and I was like, okay, well, cool. You know, like, okay, that probably helped. And I remember on 17, like, my dad went like this, and I was like, huh? What? I need a hole-in-one? And then he was like, you're leading 1. And I was like, oh, okay, I see how it is. Yeah, I would not have known otherwise, which was kind of crazy. And I remember walking through the tunnel, and because I didn't hear what he said, and then one of like the other spectators went, "You're leading." It's like, oh, okay, cool, that's nice. And then obviously that bogey on 17 was really annoying, because I hit a really good shot into the green. It was just a very bad club. I think that was very shocking. And then 18, I had that awful bunker lie, and I was just like, okay, because you've got the water behind the pin, it's not like you can go very aggressive with the bunker shot. That was a horrible situation, because I was like, well, do I go really aggressive with this, or do I trust my bunker play? Or, you know, like, it was you had to have a lot of feel and judgment there, and I guess I just estimated a little too soft. I hit the shot pretty decent, and then second bunker shot obviously was a pretty good lie. So I could make my par and hold that putt. That putt was probably the most nervous I was, because I knew that if I don't hold it, then it's gone to some extent, because I knew Charlie wasn't gonna bogey 18, you know? So yeah, I think that was a really nice moment for me, and I was pretty calm, I think, for most of the round, and I think I've maintained that calm pretty well since. Sort of realized, even in New York, I think I've sort of learned that there's so much emotion behind it, and you really want to make it happen, and of course there's a little bit of fear, but I keep going back to it, like, I don't need to be afraid to fail, because the failure is basically guaranteed, you know, because golf teaches you to lose, you know, there's one winner and you've got 100 other girls who've not. So I think I was just trying to make best of every situation, so apparently I did that quite well.
I was gonna say, and then into the playoff, obviously you were a couple groups ahead of Charlie, so you had that thing where you were on the putting green kind of waiting around, and you were really trying not to look over, because obviously the putting green looks directly onto the 18th green. You were really trying not to look, and every time someone would say, oh, are you watching, you were like, no, I'm putting. What was that little period like?
Well, my dad was like, Chiara, don't putt, because he was like, don't do that, like, don't be stupid, because the thing was, right, he knows me, and he knows I like to self-sabotage. Because he knew that if I was gonna be stressing, and he knew that I was gonna be holding putts, and if I missed one, I'm gonna like try and fix it. Do you know what I mean? I'm gonna be trying to change things, and I played well all week. You know, there was nothing to be fixed, nothing to be changed. My pace was good, my starting lines, my reads were good. So he was like, well, why putt? And I was like, I just need to distract myself, because I didn't want to look. And then I remember every single time there was just a massive camera in my face. And it was stressing me out, because I was like, well, I kind of just want to be left alone right now. Like, can we focus on Charlie, please? But no, it was a really cool experience, and I appreciated it. And I soaked in all that spotlight that I could grab. I'm glad. And I was like, Dad, should I go to the driving range? And I was like, I was annoying him so much. And he was like, Chiara, calm down. You're okay. And I was like, okay, cool. And I guess the playoffs sort of happened. I was very calm. I remember I got like a Sprite on my way there. Like, anyone who knows me knows I'm like a health fanatic, okay? I don't drink that, okay? Like, I stick to my water, my electrolytes, my bananas on the golf course. But I was really tired, and all the heat, like, you're sweating a lot out there. And my dad was like, we need to get your sugars up. You got like the maximum, you're not going to be here for very long. Which was nice of him to say, I guess. You either win or you lose, you know? Like, but get some sugar in you. You need some energy. So I was very grateful for that.
And then finally, when obviously you did end up winning, what was that moment like? What do you remember?
I remember it. Like, you gotta imagine, right? Saudi is hot and humid, and at that time of the year, you're sweaty, okay? And I remember, like, I was so stressed because I was just sticky everywhere.
I was trying to get you to do a TV interview, and you were like, I just need a minute.
Because obviously I had just come from the bunker from 18, and like you're hot and it's windy and all the sand was stuck to my face and I was just like, I looked like a crazy person. So I just, there was so many things going on, and then the champagne like pop thing was just out of my comfort zone for the sense that I'd never done it before, and I was like, great, I'm gonna experiment in front of like hundreds of people. It's gonna be great. But yeah, there was a lot of stress that day. And I think it only really settled in when I called my mom, like afterwards. And I think then I was like, oh, well, I just want a golf tournament. Like, I think telling my mom was like when I really settled in. And then obviously the plane ride home with the trophy, I was like, cool.
I was going to say, how did you celebrate after that win?
Literally not at all. I had to go back and do my mocks. I know, I'm so sorry. Everyone's always like, how did you celebrate? With a burger. I had a burger, okay? Like, because like I said, I eat pretty dang healthy. So if I have a really good tournament, I'll celebrate with a burger at the end of the week. Because I know otherwise, like, I would not do that. So, yeah, it was a good burger. It was worth it.
A burger and some exams. Just what you want.
Just a wild night, you know how it is.
And since then, kind of, how did life change? Has life changed?
I mean, I haven't changed. Maybe the way people look at me has, but I think that's their problem now. No, but I think I've been, you know, I think nothing changed before and nothing's changed after. You know, there's been some external things that have been nice, but I think I approach things the same way. I wouldn't exactly say my ego's changed either. I think I believe in myself just as much and I doubt myself just as much at the same time. I think golf is so mental, and I think I'm always trying to just learn. I'm always trying to get better. So it's not like I'm saying, okay, well, that's where I need to go. I'm saying that's where I need to go from. You know what I mean? So because, you know, at the end of the day, you can say I did this and this yesterday, but it's about what you're going to do tomorrow. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
Right, Chiara, I'm going to pick your brain now on some off-the-course activities. Enough about golf and exams and all that boring stuff. Right, so when you're not playing golf or got your head in a book doing your exams, like, what are your favourite things to do?
I was going to say read another book. No, I'm a reader. I love reading. I think traveling encourages that so much because you're without, like, Wi-Fi a lot. Hanging out with my friends down at the beach, that's always fun. Yeah, I think just seeing my friends is always something that's really special. Or just having a lie-in, you know? When you're traveling, you always have an alarm set for something. So I think it's nice to just feel like, okay, well, I'm gonna stay up really late tonight and lie in my bed for 2 hours and do nothing. But I think one of the main things that is so very disappointing about real life is that you don't have a breakfast buffet everywhere you go. So yeah, if anyone wants to install like a private chef in my house, feel free.
Absolutely. So what would you say is your biggest talent then, besides golf?
My biggest talent?
Yeah.
I'm a very good writer. I write. I'm pretty good at writing. I enjoy writing as well. Whatever it is. One of my A levels I'm going to choose is English literature. I just enjoy it. Or I think that goes hand in hand with the reading. Like music. I'm not very good at it, but I enjoy listening to it. Yeah. I don't know. I'm assuming golf is my biggest talent. I mean, it's the only thing I've been recognized for.
And when you come to like reading and writing then, what sort of stuff do you read?
Oh god, what I'm not gonna get into that today. There's an endless list.
Is there? Surely you got a favourite book. Come on, you gotta have a favourite book.
Oh, that's really difficult. What is my favourite book? I don't think I have a favourite book because there's like different directions you can go in. Like for each genre I'll have a different, I don't know, and it changes every week because I'll get overly obsessed with the one I've read last week and then I've got a new one in my hand. I'm like, well, this is my new favourite book. I don't know. Ask me once I've read them all. Okay,
we'll go with that. And back to the golf then. Like, what's a typical day in the life of Chiara in terms of practice?
Okay, well, one that depends heavily on where I am, what time of the year it is. Because right now it's Ramadan, so I have the schools only till 1 or 12 or on a Friday 11:40. So that gives me a little bit more variety. If it's a regular Wednesday afternoon in January, then I guess school's till 3, so I don't exactly have as much time. But I think I've learned to be a little bit more concise with what I do and just do it properly. I talk a lot, me and my trainer, we talk a lot about stresses. So we talk a lot about me not pairing two stresses together. Obviously I sit a lot at school, which is not great for the body. And then obviously I'm young and I'm traveling a lot and practicing a lot. So we're making sure that I'm healthy. So I'll always I'll always combine two like different parts of the game. So I'll do like swing work and let's say putting, and then chipping and pitching, because those will be two different stresses. And then I'll go gym 3 times a week. Yeah, there's a lot of variables, and I think my team and I, we work really well to try and balance things out and make sure that I do things to cater for my body and make sure that I'm healthy and prepped, because one of the hard lessons I've had to learn is that practicing a lot does not necessarily mean that I'm going to get better. It's been a hard pill to swallow, but I think it's benefited me over the last, well, I won't even say last few months. It's probably been over like a year now where sort of exams have been creeping up, and I think I've almost made more improvement in the last year than I have before, just because I've been more mentally tired after practice days, because just because I'm actually thinking a lot more. I'm not just hitting balls, I'm not just doing things. Like everything I'm doing, I'm approaching with a goal and a end result I have in mind, and I'm just being smarter, I think. I don't want to be like, okay, well, I practice like 10 hours a day and then I go gym for 4 and then I run a marathon, because I don't. I'm not perfect in any way, shape or form, but yeah, I do as much as I can, I'll say.
Yeah, and in terms of your swing, which you mentioned there, is there anyone like you modelled that off when you were younger?
I don't think I've ever really had, I think one of the main things I've always been told is like you can never copy someone's swing, just because everybody's body is different, you know? Like there's so many swings, like even I am like, okay, well this swing is so gorgeous, I wish I could swing like that, I wish I had this position, I wish I could do that, I wish I did this and that, because I think we're all super critical, and I think the grass always seems greener on the other side, no matter who you are and what you're doing. But I think my team's always been very adamant about telling me, one, you have completely different proportions. Even if you had the same angles and the same speed and the same positions, they would look very different on you. And I think a lot of people need to realize that. But also I think, sorry, my phone just went. I have times where I've ever swung it the best I've ever had, and I played some of my worst golf. So I think everybody has sort of a unique swing to them and a unique like pattern, I guess. Like I'm gonna be battling the same swing fault, I'll call it, or the same like issues for the rest of my life, because that's my DNA as a player. And I have gold in my swing, as my coaches like to call it. That is something that is part of my DNA and something that makes me tick, basically, that makes me as a player work. So I hate it so much when people get like, I don't want to say self-conscious about their swings, but when people focus too much about swing, like so many people have said, it's golf, not golf swing. And I think that shows a lot on tour. If you look at, you know, just the top 10 in the world, every single one of them has a very different golf swing, and each and every single one of them has a different thing that they do that works for them, and they all have different strengths. And I think it just shows there's no sort of right path. Of course, there's some things that work better for some people and some things that don't, but you can't really compare.
Yeah, absolutely. Although you did say in South Africa that, you know, you spoke a lot about swinging it healthier and you were swinging it well. So how is it that you've done that? What work have you been putting in to achieve that?
Some of the coaches that I've met before, not my coaches, but some other coaches have like asked to like film videos or to like show other students, which I appreciate a lot, because that's a massive compliment to me. But I think it's very important. I've always said like, don't teach this and that, because there's some moves in my swing that haven't been healthy in the past, because they haven't been for every body type, and there's some things you can't recreate and some that you can. And I think just making sure, I'm a tall girl, I'm lean, I'm always going to be susceptible to some sort of back pain, and I need to make sure that I work really well on that. And I think, you know, I've been pain-free for the longest time. It's not like it's still an issue today, but I need to make sure that if I want to play golf for the rest of my life, that I'm able to, and I'm healthy enough to. And I think playing well is part of playing healthy. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not going to give away all my secrets though.
But you can tell us, of course, what your sort of goals are, I guess, for the next year, next 5 years. Like, what is it you're really hoping to achieve?
I'm not a goal gal. That's all I'll say. Like, I have things that I want to achieve, don't get me wrong. But, like, I hate when so many, like, maybe that will change about me, but where I'm at right now and where I have been at in the past, I think so many people will say, like, okay, well, for the first half of the year, I want this, and that done. I want these boxes checked. I want this to happen. I want to achieve this in 5 years and 10 years. And, like, I find that so difficult to resonate with because it's not going to happen. Like, I'm a planner. I want to put my times on a board. Like, I have a massive whiteboard with my plan for every hour of the day. And it's difficult for me to realize and say, okay, well, by the end of the year, I want to have this, and that, because that's the dream. Things are going to go differently. There's going to be ups and downs. Maybe I'll overshoot, maybe I'll undershoot. But if I don't achieve it, what am I going to do? Am I going to cry a river, or am I going to work on the next thing? You know what I mean? So it's difficult for me to say that. I think I want to approach every tournament with the very best mindset that I can. I'm going to make the best out of every situation. Golf is hard, okay? We need to acknowledge that. It's not like I can go, okay, well, tomorrow I want to shoot a 68 and then a 67 and then a 70 to top it all off. Okay, cool. I want to win the lottery. You know? It's like, you know, of course there's things that you can and can't control. It's not like it's like all chance and all luck, but I think you gotta be a little bit more realistic at times, because I hate when people are like, well, what are your plans? Are you planning on being top 25 and this and that? And do you want to win the Order of Merit? Well, of course I do. I want to be number one in the world. I want to win this and that and that. And I want to win a major and I want to qualify for this. Of course. But that's not a goal, you know? My goals will be, I want to have the correct preparation going into every shot. I want to have 100% focus. I want to make sure that my attitude's good in between and after shots. I want to make sure that I prep correctly, and I want to make sure I'm healthy. I guess it's a different type of goal setting, and maybe that will change. Maybe I will become more accustomed to goals, but just in the past and how I've worked, it's just never been for me.
And one final one from me then. You spoke a lot about travelling. First of all, what is it like to travel as a 17-year-old? And secondly, where's the best place you've been to?
You can't do that to me.
Come on, you didn't give me a favourite book, so you got to give me a favourite travel destination.
You not tell her I can't make decisions.
This is why she's a planner, because planners have it laid out, so then you don't have to make the decision because it's done for you.
I think I'll go with nostalgia and like euphoria in that sense. I'll say New York, just because it was my first time competing in the States, because New York is like, I guess, just so romanticized. I'll say that. And then also because we had a hotel right by Central Park and it was beautiful, and I spent 2-3 days before. Well, actually, no, how many days did I get there early? I think I got there 6 days early. So I spent a couple days roaming around New York and just soaking it all in. Does that mean New York's perfect? Absolutely not. But did I just enjoy it just for the sake of little Chiara? Absolutely. I remember we went there on a family like vacation when I was 6, and that was during the Hurricane Sandy. And that was one of sort of the, I guess I didn't really go on vacations very often as a child, so I think that one was really special for me, and I think it was really cool coming back and almost, I don't want to say doing it by myself, but sort of bringing the family back. I thought that was cool.
10 years later, back in the same place. Okay, that's all we've got, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you for coming and dealing with me for an hour. I know it must have been torturous. I apologise for any listeners who have been traumatised.
Well, thanks, Chiara, very much for joining us on this week's LET Golf Podcast. Make sure to follow us on all social channels at LET Golf, and we'll see you next week.
It's a competition clinching shot. Whoa! How about that?
The LET Golf Podcast, the official podcast of the Ladies European Tour.